Hello and welcome. Tonight, we journey far across the windswept grasslands of the Central Asian steppe, to a time when the stars glimmered over vast tents of felt and smoke rose gently into the morning sky. This is a tale to settle your mind and slow your breath. You may have heard of the Mongol Empire. Fierce warriors, vast conquests, tales of speed, steel, and siege. But beneath the legendary ferocity, there was another world, a quieter, stranger one. A world where survival meant living close to the earth, and every gust of wind whispered through your bones. So tonight, we're going to softly wander into this distant time, to imagine with gentle detail why life in the Mongol Empire might have been more than just difficult, but utterly alien to our modern comforts. So find your calm. Let the sounds of the fire warm your thoughts. Let your eyes grow heavy, and allow this quiet story to lead you gently into sleep. Imagine waking up not to the hum of a city or the buzz of a phone, but to the soft flapping of felt walls in the wind. You're in a ger, what outsiders would call a yurt, a round, low tent, its wooden lattice walls wrapped in thick layers of wool felt. The air is crisp. The sun is rising over the steppe, turning the horizon a delicate pink-orange. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of smoke and boiled milk. The hearth in the center has burned low overnight, its warmth just enough to keep the chill away. You're not wearing jeans or pajamas, but layers of rough woolen robes. Your boots are heavy, thick with leather, and smell faintly of horse. Outside, there is no neighborhood, only grass and sky. The steppe stretches endlessly in all directions, and so begins your day in the Mongol Empire. A typical Mongol breakfast would surprise you. No coffee, no toast. Instead, a steaming bowl of airag, fermented mare's milk, tangy, slightly fizzy. It's not sweet, but not unpleasant either. It's what keeps your belly full and spirits calm for the day ahead. Next to it, a chunk of boiled mutton, tough, fatty, but rich. There are no vegetables, very little salt, just the essence of survival, drawn from the animals that roam with you. The Mongols were pastoralists, herders of sheep, goats, horses, and yaks. Their lives moved with the rhythm of the herds, and that meant meals were simple, sustaining, and deeply tied to nature. Your hands are chapped from cold. There is no cutlery, just a knife and your fingers. You sit cross-legged on a felt rug, eating quietly with your family. The only sounds are the low bleating of sheep and the gentle wind across the plain. Step outside your yurt now. The wind greets you first, cool and steady, brushing through the grasses in long silver waves. There are no trees to break it, only your animals, your neighbors' tents, scattered far in the distance, and the distant line of the horizon. This is not a world of silence, but of soft, wild music, the creak of saddle leather, the breath of your horse, the hum of insects, and the distant laughter of children playing with sticks and bones. There are no fences, no roads, no cities. The land is shared, just like the sky. Mongols followed their herds in the seasons. If the grass faded, the camp moved. Nothing was permanent, except the rhythm of sun, wind, and hooves. You might take your horse to visit a nearby family, offering dried cheese curds as a gift, or help repair another family's yurt wall, stitching together felt panels by hand with sinew and bone needles. Life is not easy here, but it is full of movement and a quiet kind of order. You won't see silk or bright dyes here, At least not among ordinary folk. Your clothing is a deal, a long woolen robe fastened with a sash. Sturdy, practical. Underneath, you may wear fur-lined trousers or thick linen. In winter, additional layers of felt, wool or sheepskin are added until you resemble a walking blanket. Everything is handmade. Boots are sewn from layers of hide, often with upturned toes to avoid damaging the ground. Your hat is essential, both for sun and wind. Made of fur and leather, it might have flaps to cover your ears and a long tailpiece that drapes down the back of your neck. It's not fashionable by today's standards, but here fashion means protection from snow, dust storms, and bitter winds. Each stitch tells a story of survival. Each garment, a shield against the elements. To be Mongol was to be one with your horse. From the time you could walk, you were taught to ride. Some children could ride before they could fully speak. Horses weren't pets. They were your transport, your shield, your partner in herding, war, and wandering. You didn't name them, not usually, but you knew their habits, which one liked salt, which was skittish in the wind, which one could ride the longest without tiring. Mongol horses were small but powerful, able to survive harsh winters with little food, navigating terrain that would overwhelm larger breeds. You didn't use saddles like those in the West. Your saddle was light, high-backed, and built for speed and control. You might ride with a bow slung over your shoulder, a small blade at your waist, and a pouch of dried meat tucked near your belt. To be horsebound was to be free, and without your horse, you would be lost. Now you might wonder, how was such a vast land filled with people who roamed freely ever governed? The Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan had laws, strict and clear, known as the yasa. These were unwritten but memorized and enforced. Stealing a horse, punishable by death. Betraying a comrade, the same. But loyalty was rewarded. Honor was everything. Even the poorest man could rise in rank if he proved his bravery or skill. Disputes were settled by councils of elders. Wisdom held more power than wealth. And every man, and sometimes woman, had a place, a duty, a role in the great wheel of life. You didn't need a palace or courtroom, just a felt tent, a clear sky, and the words of ancestors passed down like wind in the grass. When the grass runs low or water grows scarce, it's time to move. You don't pack with haste or chaos, no, there's a practiced rhythm to it. The yurt is taken apart piece by piece. The wooden lattice walls collapse inward, the felt sheets are folded, still smelling faintly of smoke and wool. Everything is loaded onto carts, drawn by oxen or camels. The children help tie ropes. The elders point to the horizon, choosing the next resting place with care. The entire community moves together, like a living river flowing across the land. Horses are mounted, herds are gathered, and soon a line of yurts, carts, and riders stretches across the steppe, gliding toward a new home under the same wide sky. As evening falls, the camp is reassembled. Smoke once again drifts from the new hearths. The animals are gathered and corralled with rope fences. A pot of broth simmers slowly, fat and bones melting into warmth. You sit with others near the fire, knees tucked beneath your robe. Stories are shared, not shouted, but spoken softly. Tales of ancestors, omens, distant lands. You don't always know if they are true, but they are believed. Above you, stars begin to bloom in the sky, 1,000 flickers of cold light. The Milky Way stretches from one end of the horizon to the other. The only sound is wind, fire, and the occasional soft neigh of a horse dreaming. When it's time for rest, there's no mattress, no pillow, just folded felt woolen robes and the sound of the wind against the walls. You sleep near the center, close to the hearth for warmth. Children are wrapped tightly and placed near their parents. Elders are given the quiet corners. Blankets are thick, sometimes made from padded sheepskin or yak wool. The yurt groans lightly in the wind, but it holds steady. You drift to sleep beneath curved wooden beams that meet at the roof center, the tuno, open to the sky. Sometimes you wake in the night and see stars shining down directly through it, a gentle reminder that no matter how far you ride, the sky remains the same. As the first rays of morning sunlight filter through the smoke hole, your body wakes slowly. There is no alarm, no hurry. You rise and stretch, still wrapped in layers, and step outside to greet the quiet world. The dew glistens on the grass. Horses graze silently. A hawk circles above in the pale blue sky. This is the Mongol Empire. To us it may seem brutal, cold, or remote, but to those who lived here, it was home. It was all they knew, and in its simplicity, its rhythm, its harmony with the land, it offered something we often forget, a life lived in motion, in nature, with purpose tied not to wealth or fame, but to the earth beneath your feet and the sky above your head. Not all Mongols were warriors, but those who were lived with discipline. Armor was not made of steel. It was made of hardened leather, sometimes lacquered for strength. Light, flexible, perfect for riding at full speed. Bows were made from horn, sinew, and wood, powerful enough to pierce armor, yet compact enough for shooting on horseback. The arrows were carried in ornate quivers. Helmets bore small crests or symbols, often passed down from ancestors, but even warriors began the day the same as anyone, tending to their horses, sharing arag, listening to the wind. They weren't driven by glory, but by duty, to protect their kin, their herds, their homeland of wide skies and rolling plains. Imagine a letter, a message sent across the largest land empire the world had ever known. From the forests of Russia to the mountains of Persia, from China to the edge of Europe, the Mongols needed to communicate. And so they built the Yam, a vast relay system of horse stations and waypoints. Riders could change horses and continue on without stopping. These men, called arrow messengers, could travel over 200 miles in a single day. They carried silk scrolls, secret letters, royal decrees, and even news of births, storms, or distant battles. But the stations themselves were quiet. A small yurt, a few fresh horses grazing, a lone rider arriving in a cloud of dust, handing off the message, resting for a few moments, and galloping off again into the horizon. At night, when the chores were done and the stars rose like lanterns above, music filled the air. Mongol music was not orchestral or written down. It lived in the throat, in strings, in the rhythm of hooves. You might hear kume, throat singing, a single voice carrying two tones at once, one deep and growling, the other high and flute-like, whistling over it like wind over water. Beside the fire, someone plucks a moring kur, the horse-head fiddle. Its sound is soft, low, and mournful, like a lullaby for the land itself. No applause, no stage, just music, played not to perform but to soothe. One of the quieter surprises of the Mongol Empire is its religious tolerance. Though many Mongols followed Tengrism, a sky-centered spirituality tied to nature, the empire itself welcomed diversity. Shamans, Buddhists, Muslims, Nestorian Christians, all were allowed to practice their faith freely. In Karakoram, the capital city, temples of different faiths stood near each other. Mongol rulers would even consult holy men from other lands. To the Mongols, the sky was vast enough for many truths. Their belief was simple. So long as it did not threaten order, every soul could worship as they chose. At sunset, you might see a man bowing toward Mecca, a monk spinning a prayer wheel, or a shaman whispering over a fire, all beneath the same boundless sky. Unlike many empires of the past, Mongol women held real power. They rode horses, they owned property, they could inherit wealth, manage herds, and even rule as regents when their husbands were at war. Mothers raised children in the saddle, grandmothers advised councils, daughters stitched felt and trained falcons. Life was shared, not divided. A woman might prepare fermented milk in the morning, tend to injured animals by noon, and teach her children how to track a fox before dusk. Strength was not only in the sword, it was in the hearth, in the hand that stitched robes, in the wisdom passed quietly from mother to daughter by firelight. Not all in the empire were Mongols. Merchants came from Persia, monks from Tibet, explorers from Europe. The Silk Road ran like a golden thread through the land, tying cities, caravans, and cultures together. Along the route, weary travelers were greeted with hospitality. A bowl of airag, a woolen mat to rest on. News exchanged in many languages. One famous traveler, Marco Polo, described the court of Kublai Khan with paper money, fine silks, and great feasts. But what amazed him most was the order, the structure, the sense that, even at the edge of the world, a kind of quiet system ruled all. It wasn't chaos, it was movement, carefully balanced. Now, imagine you're a single message, written in Karakoram and meant for Baghdad, carried in a leather pouch, handed off from rider to rider, through dust storms, over frozen rivers, across deserts. It moves through the relay stations, watched over by guards and herdsmen. At each stop, a fresh horse. At each pass, a change in scenery. Snowy peaks, river valleys, dry grasslands. And one day, many weeks later, that message reaches its destination, unread by anyone along the way. Trusted, protected. The empire may have been vast, but its veins, the roads, horses, and riders, kept it alive. And in that message was a whisper from one corner of the world to another. The Mongol capital was not a stone metropolis. Karakoram was a mix of felt tents, wooden structures, workshops, and temples. It was built where the Orkhon River winds gently through the steppe. There were artisans from China, goldsmiths from Europe, scribes from the Middle East. And yet, even at the center of an empire, there was peace. You could walk the streets and hear half a dozen languages, see monks and scholars pass each other quietly, smell roasting meats, incense, and the cool scent of the river wind. There were no towering walls, no marble towers, just people, trade, learning. A quiet capital for a noisy world. Sleep in the Mongol Empire wasn't simply rest. It was a moment of connection to ancestors, to omens, to the unseen world that rode with the wind. If you dreamt of a hawk flying west, an elder might say you would soon receive news. If a wolf appeared in your sleep, perhaps a warning or a blessing. Dreams were not ignored. They were remembered, spoken aloud in the morning, and sometimes acted upon. Before bed, a shaman might wave smoke from burning herbs, juniper or mugwort, to cleanse the air and invite peace. A quiet prayer to the sky spirit, Tengri, was whispered, not shouted. And then you'd slip beneath a blanket of wool and thyme and drift into dreams shaped by stars and stories. Imagine being a falconer in the Mongol Empire. Each morning, you ride out with your bird perched high on your gloved wrist. A hood covers its eyes, until the moment comes. Then, you lift the hood, give a sharp whistle, and the falcon takes flight. Your bird moves not with force, but with precision, diving through air like a streak of silent wind. You watch from horseback, breath held as it finds its mark. Falconry wasn't just sport, it was partnership, a symbol of nobility, a bond between human and sky. And when the hunt is done, the falcon returns, feathered, fierce, and loyal, a creature born of sky, resting now beside your fire. In the Mongol world, elders were not retired. They were revered. An old woman with wrinkled hands could recall 10 generations by name. An old man with white hair could sit by the fire and retell the story of Genghis Khan without a pause. Children would listen with wide eyes, not because they were told to, but because the past lived in these voices. And when questions arose about marriage, travel, danger, fate, the elders were asked first. Their wisdom wasn't written in books, it was lived, felt, and passed on like the rhythm of a song. A soft, enduring voice that stayed long after the fire burned low. Even empires sleep. There were nights when all of Karakoram went dark, save for a few distant fires, when no horns were sounded, no banners raised, only the breathing of animals, the hush of starlight, and the deep exhale of a world at rest. The steppe has no clock, only the wind tells time, and so, in the quietest hours you'd hear nothing but the shifting of blankets, the rustle of fur, and maybe, from some distant yurt, a low song, barely more than a hum. Not a lullaby, but a remembering of ancestors, of sky, of home. All empires rise and all empires fall. But the Mongol Empire did not collapse in fire, not suddenly. It faded, slowly, like footprints on dry grass. The sons and grandsons of Genghis divided the realm. Some lands drifted apart. New kings arose. Cities crumbled. The horses rode less often. But in the far corners of the steppe, the spirit remained. Yurts still stood beneath the sky. Elders still spoke the old names. And a child might still wake before dawn, ride out into the mist, and feel for a moment the whole world beneath their hooves. The empire was gone, but its rhythm lingered, like a song you once heard and never forgot.
And now, dear listener, let us ride one last time, not as warriors or messengers, but as quiet travelers, beneath the morning sky, across the sleeping grasses, listening not for commands, but for silence. You mount your horse, its breath clouds the air, the saddle creaks softly, and as you move forward, the land opens before you, green and gold and endless, There is no need to hurry. The wind is behind you, the sun is gentle, and in every hoofbeat, a memory of the empire stirs. You ride and ride, until all that remains is the breeze in your hair, the earth beneath you, and the sky, eternal, above. And now, as your breath grows slower, as the fire of this story dims to embers, let your thoughts drift like banners in the wind. You've wandered through a forgotten empire, shared milk and silence, heard songs that vanished centuries ago, and yet something of them lingers. A rhythm, a whisper. Let sleep take you now. Let your body rest. There are no more journeys tonight. Only stillness, only sky, only dreams. Good night, and may the steppe carry you gently into sleep.